Look at the sky. Right now, there is a mathematical certainty that we are being watched by machines we cannot see, cannot track, and cannot kill. For decades, stealth was just a parlor trick, bouncing radar waves away from a receiver, painting a jet black and hoping the enemy's screens were just blurry enough to let you slip by. But that era is dead. The concept of the traditional dogfighter has been effectively autopsied and buried. What we are looking at today isn't a plane, it is a localized distortion of physics. This is the Boeing F-47 Phoenix. It is the apex predator of the next-generation air dominance program, designed for one specific, brutal purpose: to replace the F-22 Raptor and ensure that the sky remains utterly locked down through the 2030s. But to call the F-47 a fighter jet is a forensic insult to the engineering that birthed it. At a unit cost bleeding heavily into the hundreds of millions of dollars, this is not a fighter. It is a flying command center. It is a ghost. And it is, very likely, the last aircraft a human being will ever be permitted to pilot. Let's open the autopsy on the F-47 Phoenix and peel back the layers of a machine that shouldn't mathematically exist. We start with the epidermis, the physical geometry of the airframe itself. When you look at the silhouette of the F-47, the very first thing you notice is what is missing. There are no vertical stabilizers. The tail is completely gone. In traditional aerodynamics, the tail is the anchor. It is what provides yaw control and keeps the aircraft from violently ripping itself apart during a high G turn or a supersonic maneuver. To remove the tail is to remove the very thing that keeps a plane flying straight. But the designers of the F-47 removed it completely to achieve true all-aspect broadband stealth. Without a tail, this jet inherently wants to fall out of the sky. It is aerodynamically unstable by design. To keep this blended wing ghost flying at Mach 2 and beyond, the onboard flight computers have to make thousands of microscopic aerodynamic adjustments every single second, manipulating control surfaces with digital precision just to trick the laws of physics into letting it stay airborne. The human hand could never make these corrections fast enough. The molecular violence happening across the skin of this aircraft at supersonic speeds is staggering. The radar-absorbent materials on the F-47 aren't just painted on like they were on the jets of the 20th century. They are baked directly into the composite structure of the airframe. This skin is designed to withstand the brutal thermal friction of supercruising without degradation, absorbing radar frequencies across the entire spectrum, from the high-frequency targeting radars of surface-to-air missiles to the low-frequency early warning arrays that usually catch stealth fighters. The F-47 doesn't just deflect radar, it swallows it whole, leaving absolutely no thermal or electromagnetic footprint in the sky. But the physical airframe is just a sterile shell. To truly understand why the F-47 rewrote the rules of engagement, we have to cut deep into its nervous system. Inside the cockpit, the human pilot is no longer a traditional dogfighter. In the hyper-lethal split-second geometry of sixth-generation warfare, human reaction times are a fatal liability. The F-47 operates fundamentally as a mothership. It is the digital quarterback for a revolutionary program known as Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA. We are talking about a single human pilot managing a synchronized swarm of advanced autonomous drones. The F-47 never flies into heavily contested airspace alone. It brings a private digital army with it. These drones are an extension of the aircraft's own nervous system, connected via a secure, unjammable quantum data link. The digital co-pilot inside the F-47 acts as a hyper-intelligent parasite on the battlefield's data stream. It digests raw targeting data, electronic warfare feeds, satellite uplinks, and infrared signatures in microseconds. If a fifth-generation adversary, like a Chinese J-20 or a Russian Su-57, enters the theater, the human pilot in the Phoenix doesn't engage directly. The AI instantly calculates the threat matrix, assigns a swarm of autonomous wingmen to blind the enemy's sensors with electronic noise, and executes a silent kill chain before the adversary even registers a lock-on. The human pilot is simply there to monitor the ethical boundaries of the slaughter and pull the final authorized trigger. A ghost, however, is only terrifying if it can reach its target. This brings our investigation to the musculature of the F-47, the adaptive cycle engine. Traditional jet propulsion has always forced a brutal, unavoidable compromise on aeronautical engineers. You either build a high bypass engine that gives you excellent fuel efficiency for long-range patrols, or you build a low bypass engine that burns raw fuel for explosive supersonic combat thrust. You could never have both in the same machine, until this engine was born. The F-47 Phoenix features an engine that literally changes its mechanical biology mid-flight. When the jet is crossing the vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean, the engine adapts. It opens a third stream of air, mimicking a commercial airliner's engine to maximize fuel efficiency. This gives the jet a massive, unprecedented combat radius of over 1,000 nautical miles. It can strike deep into heavily defended, anti-access, area denial airspace without needing to rely on slow, vulnerable, and massive aerial refueling tankers that would instantly give away its position.
But the precise second the sensors detect an incoming threat, the engine undergoes a violent metabolic shift. It chokes off that third bypass stream of air, dumping raw kinetic energy straight into the turbine core, transforming the F-47 into a supersonic knife. It supercruises well above Mach 1.5 without ever needing to touch the fuel-dumping afterburners. This means it leaves almost no thermal infrared signature for heat-seeking missiles to track. It is a mechanical evolution that completely breaks every rule of jet propulsion established in the previous century. Let's look at the kinetic delivery, the fists of the Ghost. Because the F-47 relies entirely on its stealth profile to survive, every weapon must be carried internally. External pylons create radar spikes, and a radar spike is a death sentence. The internal weapons bays of the Phoenix are massive, designed not just for next-generation AIM-260 air-to-air missiles, but to act as a magazine for directed energy weapons. We're looking at the very real integration of high-energy lasers capable of silently melting the optical sensors off incoming missiles at the speed of light. There is no loud explosion, no warning tone in the enemy cockpit, just sudden, catastrophic blindness, followed by destruction. When you look at the sheer processing power, the thermal management systems required to keep those lasers and computers cool, and the tailless aerodynamics keeping it all in the air, you begin to realize that the machine has officially outgrown its master. The physical G-forces this airframe can theoretically pull, the processing speed of its multispectral sensor fusion, the sheer unrelenting velocity of the combat environment it dictates, none of it is meant for flesh and blood. The human body is a fragile, fluid-filled sac that blacks out under heavy gravity and hesitates when faced with overwhelming data. The computer does not. With an expected maiden flight creeping closer to the end of the decade, the countdown has officially started. We are autopsying the future of warfare today, and the conclusion is clinically cold. The F-47 Phoenix is an undeniable engineering marvel. It is invisible to the spectrum. It is relentless in its pursuit. It commands a hive mind of autonomous killers that can saturate and dismantle any air defense network on the planet. But the most profound, terrifying piece of technology on the F-47 isn't its radar-absorbent skin or its shape-shifting adaptive engines. It is the realization that this jet is a bridge. It is the transition point between the pilots of the past and the algorithms of the future. The F-47 isn't just the ultimate weapon in the United States arsenal. It is the final, glaring warning that in the wars of tomorrow, the human being is entirely obsolete. To truly grasp the F-47, we have to look past the specs and into the physics of how it kills. Standard air defense relies on a cycle: detect, track, engage. The F-47 breaks this cycle before it even begins. We call this broadband stealth. Most stealth jets are optimized to hide from high-frequency fire control radars, but they often show up on low-frequency, long-range search radars, those massive early warning arrays that can see a shape in the sky even if they can't lock a missile onto it. The F-47 is different. Because it lacks a tail and features a perfectly blended, flat-profile wing, it doesn't create the resonance that low-frequency radars rely on. Forensically, we are looking at an aircraft that essentially vanishes from the electromagnetic spectrum entirely. It doesn't matter how large or powerful your radar is. If there is no vertical surface to bounce a signal back, you are looking at an empty sky. Now, consider the thermal management. Moving at Mach 2 creates friction, and friction creates heat. In the old world, heat was the tell. A stealth jet would be invisible to radar but glow like a star on an infrared sensor. The Phoenix solves this with a heat-sink internal cooling system. Instead of dumping engine heat directly into the atmosphere, the F-47 uses its massive fuel load as a thermal sponge, soaking up the heat and radiating it slowly and evenly across the entire surface of the jet. This means that even if you were looking at it with the most advanced thermal camera in existence, the F-47 is the same temperature as the surrounding air. It is a ghost in the microwave spectrum, a ghost in the infrared spectrum, and a ghost in the visible spectrum. As we conclude this investigation, the forensic verdict is clear. The F-47 isn't just a better fighter, it is a fundamental rewriting of the laws of combat. It removes the pilot from the cockpit's burden, it removes the tail from the airframe's geometry, and it removes the physics of friction from the heat signature. It is $20 billion of concentrated, lethal innovation. This is James, and you are watching The Hidden Muster. We'll see you on the next deep dive.